tonight, remembering the evil of the Holocaust, marking the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Decades on from the atrocity, for the survivors, the memories are still raw.
My children said that, "Why don't you cry?" I said, "I might not shed tears, but I cry in my heart all the time."
In the Guildhall, the Prince and Princess of Wales remember the 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust. Also on the programme, the 14 faces of fraud. A woman's been arrested on suspicion of making multiple citizenship applications, and
we weren't perfect, we weren't polished.
Hi, I'm Keith.
And I'm Ronan.
So
we're Boyzone.
the highs and lows of boy band fame from Boyzone's point of view. Good evening. 80 years ago today, the most notorious of the Nazi death camps was liberated when thousands of survivors walked out of the gates of Auschwitz. By that time, the lives of more than 6 million Jews had already been taken under the cruelest of circumstances during the Holocaust. Tonight, we'll be hearing from an Auschwitz survivor who lied to German guards to save his life. 9 of his family members were murdered. But before that, a look at how the capital has been reflecting on Holocaust Memorial Day. From royalty to local community groups, people have gathered in London in remembrance of an atrocity that's left lasting scars 1,000 miles away from the death camp. Carolyn Sim reports.
As the world watched, the King arrived at Auschwitz for the very first time and walked through the gates into a place where over 1 million people were murdered by the Nazis. It was on this day in 1945 that Soviet troops first found the camp and uncovered what happened here. In London, a special ceremony was held at the Guildhall. The Prince and Princess of Wales lit candles, while those who lived through the events of 80 years ago watched on.
Their bravery in sharing with us the most harrowing moments of their lives are extremely powerful and ensure we never forget.
Earlier, they met Holocaust survivors and listened to their stories. Stephen Frank from Chorleywood was 7 years old when his father was gassed in Auschwitz. He told me he feels lucky to have left the trauma of his childhood behind.
We came out of that horror remarkably sane. So many of my fellow survivors I know are still have hatred in their hearts, have nightmares, are, still in a really pretty grim state. And yet I've managed to come to terms with all that lot.
Most of the people who were taken to Auschwitz would walk through these gates to their deaths. Those who survived are fewer and fewer as each year passes, but their stories must be preserved.
Here we are in a world with massively increased anti-Semitism, we've got massively increased anti-Muslim hatred, other faith-based identity hatred going on. And the message, I hope, that really comes out is that we can all do something to work for a better future.
Ordinary citizens were complicit in the murder of their own neighbors. And if we're not pausing to commemorate that, no matter what background you're from, no matter what ethnicity, religion, nationality you're from, then what are we commemorating at all? What are we educating about at all? It's such a fundamental part of the world that we live in today.
And at this Jewish community centre in North London, they too lit candles to remember the horrors of the past and those who were lost.
It is very, very significant, and it should never happen again, and we should never forget.
It was the greatest atrocity in human history, a reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink. But with each new generation, hope for a better, more peaceful future endures. Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Now, those who managed to escape or were eventually liberated from Auschwitz were displaced and often had no home to return to. Ivor Pearl, who was just 12 years old when he arrived at the camps, lost 9 of his 10 family members. Only Ivor and his brother Alex survived. They were part of a group of around 700 survivors known as the Boys, who came to the UK after the war. Ivor settled in Golders Green and later married and started a family. But over the years, the memories of Auschwitz have never stayed with him. A warning that Kaf Apata's report contains details of Ivor's experience at the camp.
It's been 80 years since the atrocities of the Holocaust. But for survivors like Ivor Pell, retelling his ordeal is made no easier by the passing of time.
Literally, from 4 weeks after the Germans took over Hungary, the whole situation of the Jewish life changed, turning from living normal life, well, what we call normal life, went into ghettos, we couldn't go out for certain areas, and everything that happened, we thought, well, you know, us Jews always had to be careful what to do, we could manage. But gradually things happened, the noose got tighter and tighter and tighter.
That tightening of the noose saw over 400,000 Hungarian Jews being taken to Auschwitz. Ivor Pell was one of them, and he was only 12 years old.
You could see a German officer with white gloves pointing left and right. And he comes to me, stops. He said, "How old are you?" And then I realized what he said. He said, 16, Dustin. He looked, well, it might surprise you, but for a millisecond I could see in his eyes, he's not telling me the truth, but I said, all right, go to the right.
And what did it mean, going to
the means right? Life. Left meant gas chamber, depending which side you're on. But to him, and he pointed you to right and then gas chamber. Well, we didn't know that.
Mm. Yes.
It means you had to go with the women and children.
To be killed.
Yes. So I said I was 16. She says, all right, go to the left.
It was a lie which saved Ivor's life. But for his mother and siblings, much like other women and children in Auschwitz, their fate was that of a gas chamber. Despite his narrow escape from death on that day, the year Ivor spent in captivity was no life worth living. Now these capos who run the section of Auschwitz right. where you were, they were in charge of punishments. Yes. Did you ever get punished?
My brother was survived with me, who was in a camp in Auschwitz with me as well. As what would happen with brothers, we ended up arguing. I'm not quite sure what was the case. And one of the capo said, "You're not supposed to fight in the camp. What are you fighting for?" I kid you not. I said, "Face each other." I said, "No, you smack him." I told my brother to smack me, and went like that. I said, "No, I should smack my brother." Also, I said, no, you don't smack like that. He forced us, and he showed us how to smack each other. And we were there literally for 4 or 5 minutes until practically blood was running out of both of us.
It's memories like these which have stayed with Ivor for 80 years. The murder of friends and family. It's a pain which never goes away.
My son went to Auschwitz to March of the Living and said, "You know, Dad, you never cried." And my children said that. "Why don't you cry?" I said, "I might not shed tears, but I cry in my heart all the time."
Well, Carolyn Sim is with me now. And Carolyn, London was represented in Poland today as well.
Yeah, that's right. The Mayor of London joined the King and dignitaries from around the world at the ceremony held just before the King walked through the gates. No politicians made any speeches. But before the ceremony, Sadiq was interviewed on Polish TV, where he spoke briefly about London's Jewish population.
The Jewish population across the globe is very small. In London, we have, I'm really proud, 150,000 Londoners who are Jewish. That's a small number. And that's why it's really important we tell these stories so we know what happened here during the Second World War.
Well, there were about 50 survivors at that ceremony. Only 5 years ago, for the 75th anniversary, there were 300 survivors. So the fear is that as each year passes, there's going to be fewer and fewer people to give a first-hand account of what happened. Also in London tonight, in about an hour's time, several of London's landmarks are going to be lit up in purple to remember the Holocaust, the London Eye, Liverpool Street Station. And really, that's going to be a symbol of how the whole of London is coming together today to remember.
OK, Carolyn, thank you very much. And there'll be more on Holocaust Memorial Day, including the ceremony in Auschwitz and testimonies from the survivors on the ITV Evening News at 6:30 with Mary. Next tonight, a woman has been arrested in Waltham Abbey accused of fraudulently completing 14 British citizenship applications. The Home Office, who raided her flat this morning, have accused her of dressing up as both men and women to take the test on their behalf. Olivia Guthrie has more.
Home Office, crime team, open the door, please.
A dawn raid in North London this morning. Police hunting a woman they say is on their most wanted list, suspected of being the most prolific citizenship test fraudster in the UK. She's allegedly taken at least 14 on behalf of genuine applicants, helping to fraudulently gain them citizenship or settlement here in Britain.
We believe this person is a part of an organised crime group. She isn't the first person to be arrested in this investigation and certainly won't be the last. It is a complex investigation, but we are doing everything in our power, working alongside the test centres, immigration enforcement, the crime team, our intel teams to make sure that this is put to a stop.
The suspect in this case is accused of being a mistress of disguise. CCTV allegedly showing her using wigs and different outfits to pose as applicants. Police accuse her of pretending to be both men and women to complete the test for others. Brought in 20 years ago, Life in the UK tests cost £50 to sit and consist of 24 questions. Applicants have to get at least 18 right to pass, demonstrating what's deemed to be an acceptable knowledge of British history, law, politics and culture. But critics have likened the exam to a bad pub quiz. In 2022, the House of Lords called for an urgent review into the tests after hearing evidence from people who'd recently taken it. And last year, a study found over half of those born and raised here in the UK would fail.
It's not trying to bring this together. It seems purely an attempt to trip people up. And that seems to follow a British value, not fair play.
The Home Office says those who fail the citizenship test can take it as many times as they need. And all the answers for the questions can be learned from a government handbook. Whatever happens with potential future reform of the test, police hope raids like this one will discourage alleged criminals trying to cheat the system in the future. Olivia Guthrie, ITV News.
Still to come on the programme, the violinist hosting a concert for peace and hoping for harmony. And
Us 5 lads from Dublin got this far.
Look at us now!
the boys who became Boyzone, the story behind one of the best-known boy bands.
I prefer ordinary people.
But first, environmental campaigners have challenged claims by the Chancellor that the third runway at Heathrow Airport will cut carbon emissions. Rachel Reeves said the additional runway would put an end to planes stacking up over the capital. She's expected to give government backing to the airport expansion on Wednesday. But the anti-noise group HANCAN claims the proposal would mean more and not fewer planes in the skies over London. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Passengers flying into Heathrow often face frustrating delays. At busy times, so many planes are queuing up to land, they have to circle in so-called stacks. So, could a new runway mean the end of stacking, shorter flights and lower emissions? That appears to be the Chancellor's latest argument in support of airport expansion.
A third runway will mean that instead of circling London, flights can land at Heathrow.
Last year, Heathrow handled almost 475,000 flights. A third runway would create space for a further 260,000. Campaigners against aircraft noise say it's clear a third runway will mean more, not fewer planes in the skies over London.
the industry wouldn't be looking for a runway just to be nice and reduce emissions. That's not what they're about. They will take a step towards reducing emissions, but they want more and more and more aircraft in the sky, and that's what's going to be a death sentence for the planet.
Professor Tzbei Chong is an expert in aircraft noise at Brunel University. He says a third runway will expose even more Londoners to planes flying overhead.
They cannot put them too close to each other, so they have to have a sufficient amount of distance offset between each runways. So now you essentially enlarge the noise contours.
London's mayor has threatened to challenge a third runway in the courts.
If it was the case that Heathrow Airport was to come back with plans for a new runway at Heathrow Airport, which is supported by the government, I wouldn't hesitate to also launch with partners and colleagues another legal challenge.
But the Chancellor will be hoping to win over London's Labour MPs with the prospect of more jobs at a bigger Heathrow while still meeting carbon emission targets.
I think that there may well be a way forward in ensuring that we can deliver on both of those, the jobs and our climate commitments. And I'm interested to hear what the Chancellor will bring forward over the next days, weeks and months in terms of how we do that. I think it's really important that we bring growth to the British economy.
The Chancellor is expected to give Heathrow the green light in a speech on Wednesday. Simon Harris, ITV News, Heathrow.
Dozens of infection control workers at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital have walked out in a dispute over pay today. The team performs what they describe as ultra cleans in areas of the hospital dealing with the most infectious diseases. They want increased pay, permanent contracts and better sanitation areas. The Trust says it's disappointed the action is happening while talks are ongoing and says the hospital is still safe for patients. And the Royal Albert Hall is joining other music centres across London in Independent Venue Week, which starts today. Hundreds of gigs supporting local music venues will be hosted in the capital to highlight the British music scene. Next tonight, it's the latest in a string of documentaries and films exploring and often exposing the pop music scene of the 90s. Boyzone was formed after manager Louis Walsh set out to form an Irish Take That. Now, in never-before-seen footage, the boys are back to let fans in on the highs and the lows of boy band fame.
Kids put together. We weren't perfect, we weren't polished.
Hi, I'm Keith. And I'm Ronan.
So
we're Boyzone.
Us 5 lads from Dublin got this far.
Look at us now! Look at us now!
Well, Helen Keenan is at the premiere in Camden now. Helen, any sign of the boys themselves?
Yes, I am here in Camden now, and actually they've arrived just in time. I'm here with Ronan and Keith from Boyzone, and we've got Shane as well. There you go then. One of the most successful boy bands of all time, and they're here to tell me a little bit about their documentary. Tell me all about it. What made you want to do it?
I think after 30 years, it was nice to. It was like therapy almost for all of us to sit down and talk about it.
Amen.
We come from a generation where there was no social media. People didn't get to see behind the curtain, I guess. Bands today, every day, you know what flight they're on, what they're having for breakfast, etc. And for us, nobody got to see any of that. All they got to see was whether when we were on Top of the Pops or on Live and Kicking or
We've
whatever.
been on there many times.
Exactly, lucky. But so yeah, it was our way of kind of showing people what we went through, what our lives were like back then.
Yeah.
And it's pretty honest, very honest, and warts and all really.
Yes, because my memory of that time was Top of the Pops magazine and ripping out the posters
Oh, yeah.
and putting them on the wall.
Did the same yourself?
Well, what was it like to be a pop star in the 90s?
You know what? We used to look at Michael Jackson and Madonna as pop stars. It all happened so fast for us that we just kind of were living the moment. It was like pinch as if it's real. You know, we were very lucky. We came from a very modest working class background, and for us to be catapulted into the position that we were in, I think Irish mammies always kept their boys very grounded. So we never really saw ourselves as pop stars. We were just very lucky to have a successful career.
And like you said, it's quite an honest documentary, isn't it? There's lots of the highs, but also the lows. Why was that important to show?
You know, I think it's not much of a fluffy pop doc. It is dark at times. It's definitely emotional at times. I mean, I've watched it a few times myself and cried and laughed and had so much of a journey. I know I lived that life, but I also relived these guys' lives as well. For the first time, as we spent as a band together in the 90s and on into the 90s, but I heard him say stuff that I've never heard before. I heard him say stuff I've never heard before, and I was like, I learned a lot from the documentary, and it's quite an incredible journey to be able to witness and to put all the 30 years into 3 hours on a Sky doc, you know.
Was it important for the memory of Stephen as well?
Yeah. Very, very much so. Incredibly important. What he went through behind the scenes, as well as what the public know he went through, and then the heartbreaking, loss. It's still hard for us to deal with that, to be honest.
16 years later, and we still miss him.
Yeah, terrible. But it's a celebration of his life.
Amen.
And we know that I think he'd be very proud of this. We hope.
He'd be very proud of my shirt.
It is a very jazzy shirt, I'll give you that, and the
His favourite colour was
glasses.
red, and he loved a bit of print. So this is for you, Steele.
Look, there's been a lot of headlines, haven't there, around Louis Walsh, former manager. I mean, it's been a tricky relationship.
Why, what has he done?
You probably know a bit more than me. Do you think that's a relationship that could be fixed, rekindled?
We have a great relationship with Louis, right? Because any relationship with Louis is, Louis does what Louis does, we do what we do, and there's no point in falling out. Because you go, it wasn't me, I didn't say it, oh, maybe I did. So, you never get any closure.
Louis is a great guy.
And just finally, is there any chance of any new music, new tours for fans?
Whoa!
Go on, drop it in.
There's no new music on the way.
But maybe a new tour?
Well, no, actually, I've got new music. I've just got playlisted on Radio 2 with my new song.
Well done, Duster. Boys Life. Yeah, well done.
Sounds like could be, maybe a new tour then.
Hey,
maybe.
See you in October.
Well, you can watch this on February the 2nd.
Well done, Helen, well done for keeping them under control. OK, renowned violinist Nigel Kennedy has chosen the Barbican as the backdrop for a special concert event, all with the aim of unity through music. Joining him is the award-winning singer, Hackney-born Cleveland Watkiss. Rags Martel has more.
The instrument's the same, but the music is different. This is the sound of an instrumentalist and a vocalist.
It's such an easy medium, music. It's people work together to achieve positive results. That kind of collaborative aspect of it seems to be so different in every other part of the world where people can hardly talk to each other, or doctrine, whether it's political, religious, whatever, seems to be barriers, gender, everything. We're all being divided up into small segments when we should all be helping each other.
We're at Nigel Kennedy's North London home, which is essentially a very big studio. And he's rehearsing for an upcoming show with new collaborations.
We want to just say something about how the world is today, how it vibrates from us, from the music, and just looking at how when you kind of bring it all back around again, that we're all part of the same family. We're all human beings.
This is the standard Kennedy is best known for. His 1989 Four Seasons turned him into the world's best-selling violinist. But for his new composition, he's unusually behind the piano.
That's quite unusual to see on the piano like that.
Well, I started on the piano, and I think when I'm writing music, particularly with collaboration like with Cleveland, fantastic, musician, that we don't really have barriers between the different genres. We're bringing them together in the same way that we hope people can feel together when we're playing. You can be self-sufficient on it, whereas fiddle is more like la 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 la, and people don't even know what the chords are underneath that. Whereas on a piano, you can have the whole idea.
Nigel Kennedy on violin and piano will perform with Cleveland Watkiss at the Barbican on Wednesday. Rags Martel, ITV News.
Looks wonderful. Weather time now. Here's James.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus, the renewable energy company.
Good evening. It's been a bit of an unsettled day today. Some pretty hefty showers around, occasionally a little bit of hail, the odd rumble of thunder in the mix too. Yellow warning still in force until tomorrow morning. The rain warning really restricted to the Surrey area, but the winds everywhere, and it's the winds that are wrapped around this low that was a feature over the weekend, still hovering nearby over the next 24 to 48 hours, although that low does sort of weaken significantly. So an improving day through tomorrow. But just to mention about Wednesday, this low sneaks into northern France. It may well throw a little bit of rain into our neck of the woods, and any rain at the moment not particularly welcome. A few more hefty showers to push through this evening. Still the risk of one or two rogue strong gusts. That yellow warning across the capital overnight and into tomorrow morning. By the end of the night we're looking at a relatively mild one, 5 or 6 Celsius the low, still a bit breezy and still a few showers to push through. Now there will be quite a few showers tomorrow, but hopefully a few more brighter breaks to enjoy, and hopefully the wind will ease off and the showers will ease back too. So like I say, an improving day, and whilst temperatures are much the same, topping out at 8 or 9 Celsius, on the whole should actually feel a little more pleasant than it has done today. As far as Wednesday goes, well, a bit of a reminder, nice dry start, could be a cool start to the day, topping out at 8 Celsius. That risk of getting a little bit of rain, although some models actually suggest it'll stay to the south of us, but still worth a mention. Another chilly start on Thursday, but a lot drier and brighter and fresher, and then cloudier later on in the day on Friday.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
Now, Transport for London is marking its silver anniversary today with 25 buskers playing hits from the last quarter century.
I flash by in the yellow and green, swing around and you see what I mean.
Morning commuters were treated to the performances at Liverpool Street Station, with musicians performing in chronological 40-minute slots. Looking to the next 25 years, TfL's Commissioner Andy Lord said Londoners can look forward to new trains on the DLR and the Piccadilly lines. And that's it from us. The evening news is next with Mary, but for now, from all of us, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.